George Harrison, the name forever linked with the image of the most reserved, introspective figure among the four Beatles legends. To the public, he was remembered as calm, introverted, and detached from the chaos and noise of show business. Yet few would have imagined that this very quiet Beatle once stood at the center of numerous dramatic relationship scandals that shocked England. In one rare interview with Rolling Stone, Harrison openly mentioned the list of women he deeply resented from an actress who left him empty-handed to someone accused of driving the Beatles apart, to a lover who shamelessly grew close to his best friend in front of cameras. So, who was the name George Harrison despised most? And behind these stormy relationships, how many secrets still remain untold? 1. Pattie Boyd, the first wife and the symbol of the Layla, Harrison, Clapton triangle. It all began in the summer of 1964 on the set of A Hard Day's Night. George, only 21 and already world-famous with the Beatles, met Pattie, a 19-year-old model with golden hair and a laughter like sunshine. She appeared only briefly in the film, but that was enough for George to ask for her phone number. Members of the crew later recalled that George hardly spoke to anyone else that day. He just kept looking at her and smiling. A year later, on January 21, 1966, they married at Epsom Register Office with Paul McCartney and a few close friends in attendance. Daily Mail described it as a dream wedding between the quiet Beatle and London's fashion muse. They moved into a sunny home at Kinfauns, Surrey, filled with music, incense, and laughter. George gave Pattie a silver bracelet engraved with the words, "To my eternal love, P." But married life between a rock star and a beauty icon was never easy. As the Beatles entered a period of internal strain, George immersed himself in meditation, Eastern philosophy, and late-night recording sessions at Abbey Road. Pattie, often left alone, sought company among artistic friends to fill the emptiness. By 1968, the first rumors surfaced. Melody Maker journalist Alan Smith hinted that George was no longer just playing guitar. At parties in London, Harrison was seen with Charlotte Martin, a French model linked to Eric Clapton and Jimmy Page. Though unconfirmed by the press, Pattie later revealed that she often received midnight phone calls where the caller simply sighed and hung up. Once she found a train ticket to Paris in George's pocket with the contact name listed as C. Martin. The distance between them grew wider. George became indifferent while Pattie felt increasingly abandoned. Everything finally shattered one cold evening in early 1970 at Friar Park, the legendary mansion George had just bought. Pattie returned unexpectedly from Brighton and heard quiet laughter in the living room. Opening the door, she saw George and Maureen Starkey, Ringo Starr's wife, sitting together in the dark. Pattie said nothing, just silently walked away. The next day, news leaked. News of the World ran a story titled "Beatles' Friendship and Secrets Behind Friar Park's Doors." George kept silent. Ringo disappeared from London for 2 weeks, and Pattie shut herself away, refusing interviews. In a letter to a friend, she wrote, "I no longer recognize the man I once loved." In the middle of this turmoil, Eric Clapton, George's close friend, entered the scene. Often visiting Friar Park to play guitar with George, Clapton gradually fell in love with Pattie. In 1971, he sent her the first recording of Layla with the note, "I can't keep this inside anymore." When the song was released, everyone knew who it was about. BBC Radio 1 and Top of the Pops played it non-stop. The world buzzed with the Clapton, Harrison, Pattie triangle. One night, Clapton, drunk, came straight to Friar Park. Looking at George, he declared, "I love Pattie. I can't hide it anymore." George only smirked and softly replied, "If you want to try, then try." This exchange was later recounted in the book Here Comes the Sun, The Spiritual and Musical Journey of George Harrison. But the story didn't end there. In 1973, at a party at Ronnie Wood's house in Richmond, later dubbed by the press as Rock's Fateful Night, Patty disappeared with Ronnie while George was seen leaving with Ronnie's wife, Chrissy. Within days, the Sun splashed the headline, "The Beatles' Wife Swap Scandal." Though all denied it, the media pursued them relentlessly, even building detailed timelines of the four people on that fateful night. After this shock, Patty moved out of Friar Park, taking only a few belongings and their wedding photo album. George did not stop her. He left only a handwritten note, "I hope you find the peace I could not give you." In 1977, they divorced. Patty later married Clapton while George found peace with Olivia Arias. Yet their story from that first meeting on a film set to the legendary songs that followed is still told today. Patty Boyd became more than a woman. She was the muse for three of the greatest love songs of the decade: "Something Layla" and "Wonderful Tonight." She made George fall deeply in love, drove Clapton to madness, and left the world forever curious about what really happened behind Friar Park's closed doors. 2. Yoko Ono, the only woman. George Harrison openly refused. Many believe George and Yoko clashed while the Beatles were still together. But the real explosion came in 1971 when George organized the Concert for Bangladesh at Madison Square Garden, New York. This was his most ambitious project, both a humanitarian mission and a declaration of independence after the Beatles' breakup. While George was gathering artists, John Lennon suddenly agreed to join, thrilling fans worldwide. But within 48 hours, Lennon's camp added a condition: Yoko Ono must perform with him. To George, that was an unacceptable boundary. According to Rolling Stone, August 1971, the preparation meetings were held at Friar Park. There, George made it clear to his team that he would not allow any source of controversy to overshadow the charity's mission. One band member recalled that George's voice was calm but firm enough to silence the entire room. Years later, producer Phil Spector confirmed that he saw Lennon walk out of a meeting after hearing Yoko was refused. Spector said George remained calm, but his eyes were cold. From that day, their relationship fractured. Lennon felt George was insulting his wife, while Yoko accused him of old-fashioned musical monopoly. On the Dick Cavett Show, Yoko hinted, "Some people say they love peace but can't stand women singing for it." Though no names were mentioned, audiences knew it was aimed at Harrison. The roots went deeper. Since 1968, Yoko had unsettled the Beatles by constantly attending recording sessions at Abbey Road, sitting beside Lennon, and sometimes offering input on harmonies or lyrics. George, who valued absolute creative space, felt his territory was being invaded. One EMI engineer recalled George once leaving mid-session, abandoning his guitar on the chair. That night, he phoned Ringo saying only, "I can't stand this atmosphere anymore." Public opinion also turned against Yoko. Melody Maker ran an editorial titled, "Yoko, the fifth Beatle nobody asked for." Meanwhile, The Guardian wrote that George Harrison is trying to save his music from excessive experiments. Tensions grew worse when Yoko and John released two versions considered too radical, damaging Lennon's image. So, when John demanded Yoko join the Concert for Bangladesh, George saw it as a matter of pride. He didn't speak publicly, but insiders said that the night before the final meeting, George sat for hours in his study, rewriting the artist list, crossing out John and Yoko, and replacing it with Bob Dylan. The next morning, news spread that John had pulled out. Headlines screamed, "Lennon pulls out, clash over Yoko." The concert went ahead on August 1, 1971. Tens of thousands filled Madison Square Garden. George led a lineup of Ringo Starr, Eric Clapton, Bob Dylan, Leon Russell, and Billy Preston. No Lennon, no Yoko. Yet the concert became historic, moving, powerful, unforgettable. After